What's up, guys? It's Chris here to give my predictions for UFC 125 going down on New Year's Day. Apologies in advance if this video comes across a little, not to say my videos are the best thing out there on the YouTube, that's for sure. But if this one comes off a little bit lackluster or whatever, not because of the event coming up, but just feeling a little bit under the weather. Still recovering from, the holiday weekend or whatever. And but I'm not going to have time to do this video tomorrow. I don't really want to wait till Wednesday to post it, so just doing it today, gonna get it out the way, and yeah, let's go. Anyways, UFC 125. Gotta say, may not be a stacked card necessarily with a lot of big names on it, as compared to most New Year's Day cards that UFC and Zuka tries to put on, but on paper, just looking at the names and the fights, it looks pretty damn appealing to myself personally as a fan. Granted, I'm obviously as disappointed as the next person that the Jose Aldo Josh Crispy fight got postponed because Aldo had an injury, but Crispy's still going to get a chance to make his debut, although it probably won't be televised. But other than that, maybe the main event won't be the greatest fight, hard to say, but other than that, I think it's a pretty good card. As far as the undercard, only going to talk about maybe one fight. Phil Baroni, Brad Tavares. Hopefully we're going to see this fight on Spike beforehand because it's not supposed to scheduled to be on the pay-per-view broadcast, but should be a fun little scrap. Tavares coming off the Ultimate Fighter a couple seasons ago. Baroni coming off the ass whooping at the hands of Amir Sadal where he got just decimated. And he's been out with injuries and stuff. I don't think he's fought in like a year or something. I don't know. But yeah, either way, I got to go with Tavares here, the younger fighter, the fresher fighter. Baroni's obviously got the experience, but he's been out for a year. Injuries. Didn't look good in the Sadal fight. Granted, he showed a lot of heart, but I'll favor Tavares here by a decision. Should be a really entertaining fight, though. Hopefully we do get a chance to check it out. Next up, we got Jeremy Stephens, Marcus Davis. I don't know if this is on the broadcast or not. I've seen it in the advertisements, but I usually only have 5 cards scheduled for the pay-per-view. But hopefully this will make it on there as well. Jeremy Stephens, Little Heathen, one of my favorite fighters out there in mixed martial arts. I like the way this guy fights. I like his attitude, and just an aggressive fighter. I was really expecting his last fight against Melvin Guillard, another one of my favorites, to be just a complete war, but unfortunately Melvin decided to fight. It's kind of a safe fight, similar to the Oda Machida type fight. But yeah, and he got the win over Jeremy Stephens. As for Marcus Davis, moving down to lightweight, which is interesting to see, coming off that loss to Nate Diaz. Interesting to see because I never really looked at him as like a ginormous, or a small welterweight, I should say. And also because it's always harder to cut weight as an older fighter, so it'll be interesting to see how the weight cut affects him. That said, I'm going to go with Jeremy Stephens. I know Marcus Davis supposedly has these boxing credentials, but Nate Diaz was able to outbox him. I think Jeremy Stephens will be able to get the better of it on the feet in exchanges as well, so go with Jeremy Stephens by decision. Next up, Nate Diaz, Dong Hyun Kim. Diaz, another one of my favorite fighters. See, that's why I'm so looking forward to this card. In a way, it's got a few of my favorite fighters on there. But Diaz taking on Kim. Diaz, as I mentioned already, coming off the win over Davis. And Kim coming off a complete smothering of Amir Sadal. Not the most entertaining fight, but Kim did what he needed to do to win. I want to pick Diaz in this fight. He's one of my favorite fighters. I think he's looked great since moving up to welterweight. But Kim has got the style, as you saw in the Sadal fight. He can get guys down and smother them. And Nate has struggled against guys with that style, most notably Clay Guida and Joe Stevenson. They were able to control him, and just, he wasn't really able to do much with those guys. And I think that might be the case here as well. I think Kim is stronger. I think his judo may be able to get Nate down and hold him there. Hopefully, Nate can keep it on the feet. He definitely should have the edge there. On the ground, he's got some slick jiu-jitsu. I haven't really seen Kim in danger, though, to any submissions just yet. So, I'm going to be a fan in this one and go with Nate Diaz by decision, but I obviously will not be surprised in any capacity if Dong Hyun Kim gets the win here by decision. If he does, it's going to be boring, though, similar to Diaz's fight against Guida and Joe Stevenson to agree. Next up, Clay Guida, Takanori Gomi. This is a good matchup on paper. Two guys that down to throw down. Guida, workhorse in there, more of a wrestler style, but he's not afraid to stand and trade. Gomi, he really likes to throw them hands. So, Guida coming off the win over Rafael dos Anjos. Gomi coming off the knockout over Tyson Griffin. I know after his fight against Kenny Florian, people were wondering if he had anything left, but knocked out Tyson and looked great doing so. Does he have what it takes to win this fight? Yes and no. on the feet, definitely should be the better standing with the punches in the boxing. Guida likes to take guys down and smother him when he can't get the best of it on the feet, although he did try to stand and trade with Kenny Florian, much to his demise. I think he'll probably get clipped on the feet and hurt, and then I think he'll probably try to put Gomi on his back. Thing is, Gomi may not be a great wrestler, but I think he has underrated takedown defense. I think he's got really good takedown defense. If you ever watch his fights back in Pride, granted he didn't ever fight any real takedown artists except for Marcus Aurelius, and he lost their first fight. But unless Guida just smothers him for 3 rounds, which I don't know if that's going to play or not, I got to favor Gomi. I just think I don't know how much he does have left. I think his best days are clearly behind him, but I still think he's the better fighter at this stage. So I'll go with Takanori Gomi by TKO. Next up, Thiago Silva, Brandon Vera. This is actually one of the harder fights to predict, I think, on this card, in my opinion. Thiago's coming off that loss for Rashad Evans. Got dominated the first 2 rounds, almost stole it, almost got the win late. Hurt Rashad, but he wasn't able to finish it off. And he's been out with injuries since then. He's been out for a while. Brandon Vera, coming off the loss to John Jones, where John Jones hit him with that elbow and broke his eye socket, or his orbital, on the UFC on Versus show. Both these guys kind of in a similar space, although I think Brandon Vera needs to win here much more than Thiago Silva. I think if Vera doesn't get this, he possibly could get cut. I don't think that's going to be the case for Thiago necessarily. Thiago, at times of late, has looked better, but I favor Vera stylistically in this fight. Thiago's a very aggressive fighter. Vera, he kind of came when he first got in the UFC, he was aggressive. Now he's more of a counter fighter. Picks his spots here and there. Even a bit more conservative, I guess you would say, which isn't as appealing as when he was fighting in a heavyweight. That said, I think his counter-striking, along with his Muay Thai skills, he'll be able to exploit Thiago Silva, similar to the way that Lyoto Machida used Thiago's aggression against him and ended up catching him and hurting him. Unless Brandon Vera, Thiago is just able to intimidate him and outmuscle him and kind of get Vera to shell up and not fight aggressively or to the best of his abilities, like we saw. He fought a wrestler sometime last year, a guy that's no longer in the UFC, but just a boring fight. And even against the Keith Jardine fight, I thought he would look better than he did, and he didn't. But I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to go with Brandon the Truth Vera by, let's go with knockout. I mean, if Machida could knock him out, Thiago, I think Vera very well could, but definitely curious to hear other fans' thoughts on this fight, who they're picking and why. Co-main event of the night, Chris Leben against Brian Stann. Chris Leben had a great year last year, had 3 wins, probably the comeback fighter of the year last year. He beat Yoshihiro Akiyama, most notably in his last fight. Great fight, one of the best of last year, and or this year, I guess I should say, not the new year just yet. And also had he was losing that fight. Looked like he was knocked out in the second round, but he survived. And then it looked like he was on his way to losing the fight possibly, but he pulled out that triangle late in the third and got the win. As for Brian Stann, he is coming off a win over Mike Macenzio. I think it's submission. I didn't see that fight, though. My only real worry or concern for Chris Leben in this fight is the fact that he got a DUI not too long ago. He always keeps saying how he's got his life together and he's working. He loves living in Hawaii, focused on the gym. But, yeah, I mean, anyone can get caught with the DUI. I mean, I doubt anyone that's watching this video, including myself, hasn't drank and driven, at one time in their life. Maybe not to the level where I would deserve a DUI, but, it just makes me wonder how much he really is focused outside of, the gym. Stan, when he first got to the UFC, I think being exported over from the WC, a lot of people didn't expect him to do very well, but he's actually improved a little bit. He moved down to 185. He's now training with Greg Jackson in that camp, which is always a plus. That can't be bad. And he's trying to make his game more well-rounded. Not that that's going to be necessary here. This is one of those fights, it should be a slugfest. That's the way it's being advertised. That's the way both fighters are talking about it. Sometimes, things sway from that, depending on who's getting better. But I could always see Chris Leben if he gets caught. Or if he just wants to have an easy fight. Taking Brian Stann down and just kind of dominating him from there, I think he's much better than Brian Stann on the ground. Particularly if he's on top, I think Stann will be all but defenseless against Chris Leben's ground and pound. However, I do think it's going to be a good stand-up fight. I think it's going to be a war. Both guys trading. Leben, he's improved his stand-up a little bit since the Ultimate Fighter days, but he's still not like no proficient technical striker. As for Stann, his punches are pretty straightforward. Doesn't have the best defense. Neither of these guys do. Both these guys are pretty easy to hit, but I think Stann actually, I want to say he has the better stand-up technique-wise, more crisp, but that may not even come into play. Both guys are big hitters. Be curious to see if Brian Stann can handle Chris Lieben's power, but I don't know. Either way, I'm going to go with Chris Lieben to win this fight by TKO or decision, and I think it's going to be a war, though. On to the main event of the night. Got lightweight champion Frankie Edgar defending his title against Gray Maynard in a rematch. These guys fought 2 years ago. Gray Maynard got the win there, which bothered a lot of people when Frankie Edgar got the title shot against BJ Penn before Gray. But, you know, Frankie showed they deserved the title shot by beating BJ Penn not only once but twice this past year. As for Gray, coming off a win over Kenny Florian, you know, that was kind of a step up for him to see if he was ready for a title shot, and he pretty much dominated Kenny, surprisingly. Sorry. Sorry about that, guys. I hear my answer machine going off, just trying to catch out who it was. But as for Frankie, obviously, like I said, he's coming off the wins over BJ Penn, both back-to-back. So, yeah, the first fight, Gray got the better of it in the wrestling department. Surprisingly, you know, he was able to take Edgar down and control him there. But as far as since then, I think that Frankie Edgar is the much more improved fighter. I think that although Gray still may have the edge in wrestling, he probably does. He's also the much larger guy. I think come fight night, he'll be at least 10, 15 pounds bigger than Frankie. I think Frankie has evolved, particularly in the stand-up game. He's got a style. He's kind of got down to a T now. We saw it against BJ Penn. It's similar to Dominic Cruz, who are fans of the WEC. A lot of movement, a lot of activity. And he's still got his wrestling to fall back on. As for Gray, his stand-up just really hasn't looked all that good. You know, he had that Nate Diaz fight, and I thought he lost the stand-up game there. Although he ended up winning the fight, you know, deservedly so, but I thought he got the worst of it there. And his stand-up didn't look all that good against Roger Huerta either, even though he also won that fight. So, you know, being as it's a 5-round fight, I think that favors Frank Edgar. Although I think Gray can take him down, you know, and control him again. I don't know if the ref will allow it for 5 rounds straight, you know, if Gray's not being very active. And I think on the feet, Frank is going to really be able to pick up points, you know, pile up points. With that movement and stuff, I think he's a much quicker fighter than Gray Maynard is. So, if it sounds like I'm going for Frankie Edgar to win and redeem and, you know, get revenge, I guess, for their first fight, then yeah, that's the way it's going to be. I think Frankie's going to win a decision. I think it'll be close though, probably 3 rounds to 2. You know, might even get a split decision, controversial, but I'm going to favor Frankie just because I think that he is the better overall fighter at this point. Anyways, that's it for now. Talked about all these fights recently on the Science Fights radio show, as well as, you know, yesterday I did an award show for the Boxing MMA Awards. Some of the videos I posted on here already. So if you guys want, you can go back and check that out. We'll put a link to the show in the information part of the video as usual, as well as a link to my Twitter. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this event if you're looking forward to it, which fight you're looking forward to the most, and who you favor in the main event. Actually, all the fights. Well, you know, Edgar Maynard and Silva Vera, those are the fights I'm kind of most curious about. But Diaz Kim and Gomi Guida, those are intriguing bouts as well. So kind of want to get a consensus of who people think is going to win these fights and why. Anyways, once again, that's it for now, guys. I'll probably be back Saturday night. Talk about these fights afterwards. If not, talk about them on the radio show, Science Fights Radio Show, next Sunday, as always. And until then, guys, I'm out.